Hey peeps, good morning. Just before the baseball tournament begins here for a little cookie, and I am getting ready, but had some time real quick to put out a video for you guys about the new heavy trooper that River Game announced this morning. It's called the Luminary Night LP-4. It should be out tomorrow. So there's no picture, but there's a brief run through of the skills. And there's a new chipset that goes, but I will read the skills and give you my best interpretation of where he is best used and what he is best for. And then we'll go from there. The first skill is common mode, which just lets you to change what he is. Then you have what's called instant charge, which means instead of hitting one target, he strikes 4 times, each hit doing 26% original damage. So you'll do 104% damage instead of 100, but you hit 4 people. The important thing is that he applies pursuit to the target, which is a new, effect that it applies. That's important to get on 4 people instead of 1 person. So this is where it would be effective to have the 4 hits instead of the 1. The 104 to 100% doesn't really matter that much. We'll get into what pursuit is later on in the description. Phantom Flash means the damage dealt increases by 16%. This is right off the bat. And decreases by 4% each round. So basically he will do more damage in the first round, but then each round that'll go down by 4% until it's just his regular damage and no extra damage. That's good for getting a quick start, because honestly, most of your troops are doing more damage in the first round anyway, and you probably have the most HTs in that stack in the first round. So I think that's a nice thing to have there. The next skill here is Drift Pursuit, which says that at the end of each action by Luminary Night, it randomly fires a light bullet at 1 enemy unit. So after he's all done with whatever he's supposed to do, he's going to fire 1 bullet. It causes 15% damage, but if the target that it hit has Pursuit, which we applied to 4 people earlier, the damage becomes 30%. So it boosts that damage. So kind of like Dune Sawblade has those 2 things he fires at the end of his turn. I think this will be a bullet like that does 15 or 30% damage depending if it hits a target with Pursuit or not. Next skill here is Shield Guard. It's just an HP boost, right, of 80% to the Luminary Knight, not to any of the troops around him, so it's just for him. Then you've got Final Pursuit, which says that at the end of each action by Luminary Knight, fires a light bullet at 3 random enemy units, causing 25% damage. So the damage has gone up, and instead of 1 bullet, it's 3. If the target has Pursuit, it additionally applies 1 stack of 20% ignition effect. So now you're also adding ignition to anybody who's hit by this that had Pursuit. So 4 people got the Pursuit effect at the beginning of the round. You randomly hit 3 people. Any of those 3 that you hit that had Pursuit, which there was a 44% chance if there was 9 of them that they had Pursuit, then they now have ignition, 20%. This is where this gets funny with which hero you use them with, because now if you put that with a bod, I believe that ignition goes from 20 to 30%, right? Because he adds 10% ignition. Now let's look at the next skill, Howling Impact. Drift Pursuit, the first skill, can attack an additional unit and inflict 1 stack of 15% ignition. More ignition. With a bod, the 15 goes to 25. On enemy units damaged by Drift Pursuit. After Luminary Knight is critically injured, the recovery time is reduced to 6 minutes. So this is different than the first thing, but you know how you lose your heavy trooper for 10 minutes if he's hurt? Well, you only lose this guy for 6 as long as you have this thing unlocked, which is 4 minutes every time. In battles, that's a nice boost to get him back quicker. Skill effects. Pursuit is the skill effect. You will receive additional effects when attacked by Luminary Knight. Ignition before launching a regular attack. So this is just telling you what ignition does. We know what ignition does. And Pursuit, we talked about what it does. So based on what you see up here, he's a really good heavy trooper in that, he's going to do damage to 4 targets. He's going to add ignition possibly. He's going to do a little bit of extra damage. He has a shield. All good things. All these skills work with any march, but if you have heroes that benefit from ignition, obviously having this heavy trooper helps. Secondly, if you have a hero like Abad who enhances ignition, having this heavy trooper also helps. And you'll notice with all the heavy troopers, there's little things that they do that benefit certain heroes more than others. I think this heavy trooper being released around the same time as Abad is no coincidence, and he clearly goes well with Abad. And again, I know there's a chipset they released with this, and we'll get into that in a minute, but from your old chipsets, if you have what's pronounced like Scramsax blade, if you have the Scramsax blade, you remember that allows your heavy trooper to do more damage to ignited targets. So now if we're doing ignition and our heavy trooper's doing more damage to ignited targets, that's all, adding up in different ways. It's layering and helping each other, which is the goal of any march. Now that that's said, let's look at the new chip, which is called the Chris Sword chip. So we have all these fancy names, and then we've got like Chris's sword. Very cool, very cool. So let's read a little bit here. Basically, it says the heavy trooper's regular attack causes damage one time at the beginning of each round. So I'm thinking this is before any turns. Total damage increases by 7.5% up to a maximum of 30%. So it'll be 7.5% the first round, 15% the next round, 22.5% the next round, and 30% the next round. This is only the heavy trooper's damage. It is not for all your troops. And then the increased damage effect resets at the end of this round. And then regular attacks triggered by combo attack will not stack this effect. So, you know how sometimes combo attack works well with certain attack boosts to help multiply them? That does not work with this chipset. It still seems like a pretty solid chipset based on description. But again, I'll have to test it more to give a real opinion on it. But I think even if it doesn't work well with the new heavy trooper, I think your Scramsax blade will. And I think this heavy trooper will work really good with Abad if you end up using him. How do you get him? You get him in modules. Right, 2 methods. You can purchase module research bundle, or you can complete daily tasks. Spend your research attempts. Same way you unlocked the shark and the Doom saw blade or whatever. And then there's also chance drops, right, in the HT chests. So if you have some HT chests, you might want to hold off opening them until this heavy trooper is released, so that you could possibly get pieces from him in those chests. That's the information they've given us. That's my opinion. I think he really helps your Air Force with Abad in particular. I think it would still do well with Asuka, because Asuka does boost the status damage effects. He would do well with Barbie if you have older heroes, because Barbie does more damage to ignited targets. Again, anybody who benefits from ignition, he does well with. Ignition works for everybody, but it has the best effect for Air Force. So keep that in mind. But again, having a 5th heavy trooper is nice for people also who have a lot of marches, because you want to send each march out with a heavy trooper. Now it's just about finding the right chipset and the right march to put with the right heavy trooper. So good luck, guys. Please continue to show love, like and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. I'm out here trying to get you this video on a Saturday morning right before this baseball tournament begins. That's my love for you guys, So appreciate you. All right, enjoy and have fun.